Could you describe, because you just talk about commercial and military, could you describe like the IEDs, which are like the improvised ones?
Mhm.
And then
So let's look first at the I.E.Ds and unfortunately roadside bombs. So the explosive device, which makes them so dangerous in two fronts. The first off, when they are put typically along a roadside where heavy equipment will be going by, and the idea is they're basically, we'll say they're layered, if you will, and they're in a thin can. And when you walk over them, the can crushes. That causes the contact point, and then of course causes the release of energy at that point. In the sense that from the attacking the enemy mentality, well, I'm not sure when they're going to come through this road, but there's a nice road here. I'm going to plant a bunch of these here, roadside bombs. That's why they get the term. And whenever they come through, it's going to be ready to go, and it doesn't. I don't have to be here. I can put everything in the ground. I can go leave, and when they come through here, then I'll get my desired effect. The downfall is while they are sometimes used by military, for example, in the sense that they're used to, okay, this is going to be a main supply route, this is going to be a main chemical warfare route. So as a result, I'm going to put them there. They're typically made to less degree of refinement. And what makes them so dangerous is that a lot of times they're still an explosive, but they're made in such a haphazard way that they sometimes don't detonate, but then they're still explosives. So if something else was to happen, they could explode. This is why if you see let's say recently, but um, hurricanes that come through an area or earthquakes that come through an area, there was a testing facility site. This was done out in the kind of more of the ocean, and they had an islands that the government had purchased, and it was their bombing island. It was well established. It's called the Ruins, and they basically built things. It's over by Long Island Sound, Long Island, New York, and it's called the Ruins. And it's basically the military bought it, and they used it to do flyover for planes and to try to get their precision to blow up the island. Well, since they were flying over and dropping a bunch of bombs, not everyone exploded. And this goes back 60 years ago, so we're not talking anything recently. But Hurricane Sandy, which I want to say it's around 12-ish years ago. I forget the exact time frame of when, but many years ago, was a violent hurricane that came through the area, which is not common for, the Northeast region. A lot of those come south and they weaken. They still get bad storms, but not violent as Sandy was. And what Sandy had done is really stirred up a lot of water, really moved a lot of very low pressure, very windy, and it actually had stirred up the ocean to the point that it had mixed up that silt, that sediment, and actually exposed and brought some of those bombs that were not exploded up to the surface or up on this little island, and they were identified and basically had to be removed. And I want to say of the three they found, at least one of them in a controlled environment did explode. So something that you have even 60 years old that was sitting in water and areas, because it's still an explosive, they still have the potential, not always, but they still may have the potential to cause that explosion, which of course is why bomb squads are called in, even on old stuff, because that's the challenge that we have with explosives is that just because they didn't detonate when they were prescribed to, or when we wanted them to, or in the situation we wanted them to, they still have a lot of the components to cause an explosion, which may, of course, cause a little bit more needed to do that, but still a situation you really don't want to be in, shall we say.